Please welcome our stars of the film, Sharon Lawrence and Nicholas Gonzalez, first and foremost. And very talented people. And we are so fortunate that Karen, their co-star, Karen de la Peña Collison, is here as well. She played Barbara Benton, an extraordinary best friend to Miss Sharon Lawrence's character. And our incredibly talented writer, director, producer, and back to Sedona for like her 8th time, Dale Griffith-Stamos. So I'm going to fire the first couple of questions, and I'm going to come down to you all with the microphone. But I want to take you back. Let's go back to 2006. And how did you come to cast these two wonderful people in the original stage play? And then to them, what made you say yes to doing this project?
In 2006, I had written this play, Dialectics of the Heart. And I was lucky. I had written it, but I didn't direct the play. It was directed by Allison Fuller and Vale Fuller. And she had worked with Sharon. I think Sharon's like first acting job major, I don't know, Sharon will tell us. But it was an early relationship that they had. And she sent the script to Sharon and asked if she would be interested in the production, and Sharon luckily said yes. Now that was the easier part. The harder part was finding Nick. We auditioned, 50 to 100 actors. And none of them were right. I had written the part to be Latino because I was tired of the stereotypes of young Latino males being presented, as gangbangers and drug dealers and, at best, a policeman, right? And so I was auditioning, but I have to say, in Hollywood in those days, 20 years ago, most of the young Latino males who would come in to audition were used to auditioning for those kinds of roles. And I was throwing them things about epiphenomenalism and solipsism and, and they were like, no, it wasn't working. And then I did a little search, and the search resulted in finding this Nicholas Gonzalez, who had starred in something called Resurrection Boulevard. He was in a movie at the time, or had just finished one, and I found out that he had studied James Joyce at university, had gone to Stanford. I thought anyone who can handle Ulysses will be able to handle the language in this play. And I went after him. We went after his manager. We first got the wrong manager, then we found the right manager. And he read the play overnight, and literally the next day, he said, I'm interested in this. Hallelujah. So that's how that came about.
And what made both of you want to do this play first?
Well, as Dale already mentioned, I had worked with the director on a play probably maybe 6 years earlier, before I had been cast on the television series NYPD Blue. I had done a lot of stage work in New York. I was certainly a theater animal, but Allison and I had done a small, what they call equity waiver production, of a very conceptual play that we had a great experience on. So when she called again about this, and I read the material, it was an easy thing to say yes to, because I trusted her so much, and because Dialectics of the Heart was a beautiful piece. And then I had the joy of working with Nicholas, who became a friend in another way, with a social circle that we're still really tied into. So that 20 years, I'm really impressed with all the details that you remember. Yeah, it's that speaks to your mind, Dale. You are sharp as a tack, rigorous for sure. But to get to do something twice is rare. To do it 20 years apart is really rare. To do it with the same people is incredibly rare. And to be able to come to a film festival like yours, your beautiful town, your passion for films and seeing films together is just a reward that I don't think we ever saw coming. So thank you for being part of our 20-year journey. Thank you.
Beautiful.
I mean, for me, it's a lot easier because Sharon was already attached by that point, you know, and I was a big fan of NYPD Blue, and we had kind of, up until that point, had even started maybe some of the circling. I know we were up for some pilots together, different things, so I was definitely aware of her and the chance to be in that, on top of in a town like Los Angeles, which really isn't known for its theater. And that's where I had started. I didn't even know about acting until I got to Stanford. It's not even a conservatory school, you know, and I didn't even go there for drama, but that's where I discovered theater. And then incidentally after that in San Francisco, not LA, and I went to LA to do more theater. It just shows how much I didn't know at that point. But that was back in '98, and I had, up until that point, done Resurrection Boulevard. I think I had just finished with The OC, which was funny. It's a funny time. And then, you know, when you work on a project like that, it was really great to get something smart afterwards, you know. And so this was an easy, I mean, I just am so flattered that it even came my way, because it's, as you see the words, what you see up there is a lot of what we had in the play, which was, you know, it's ambitious for a film in many ways. We don't dumb it down for the audience. We don't assume you need everything handed to you, and maybe you want to come to the cinema and be challenged a little bit in how you think, or hear how people do it on another level. So it was like a very experimental to do the film, you know, because we didn't have a lot of time. You know, it was going to be a journey that I felt just so comfortable in doing it with this woman that I'd done it so long ago, stepping on the stage. She was a veteran of stage, Broadway, everything else, and for me it was still early days, so her patience, her grace, and it's easy to fall in love with her each day you come to work, I'll tell you that. I mean, it takes a certain actress, not only in how you look, but you can see up there on the screen, you get why he loves her. And to investigate that now at this age, I feel it's so much more rich, it's so much more true. You know, before it seems fleeting, it does. Everything that you worry about, and you know, even though that still smacks of that, it just had such a depth of these two people coming together, almost like, what's the Ethan Hawke, you know, before midnight or after midnight, you know, and they get to like, you know, do that, and that's our own little way of doing that, investigating it ourselves, you know, even though it's the same piece. How interesting is that, you know?
And how did you come across casting the amazing Karen? I think all of us want to have a best friend like you, Karen.
Yes.
Like Barbara Benton. So,
Well, Karen was, and then I'll hand it to you. Karen was, this was a fun story because I had someone different in the cast originally, and for the play, and I teach writing at the Santa Barbara Writers Conference. And Karen is not only an exceptional actress, she's an exceptional writer. And she had written a screenplay that had won this magnificent award called the Nichols Fellowship. It's near impossible to win. And she came to my workshop on writing, and I said, "What are you doing here? You don't need me. You just won the Nichols." And she said, no, that was my very first screenplay, and I'm also working on a novel, and I want to see, you know, what I can learn here. And then I mentioned I had just begun work on a feature film. And Karen just said, "Any part for me in it?" And I didn't know Karen's work, so I said, "Well, there's The Best Friend. I haven't cast that yet. Would you audition?" Which she did. She kindly auditioned. And then it was just a no-brainer. I watched the audition and I went, "Oh, okay, well, there we go." We have our Barbara. So,
My version's a little different. It's true I was in her writing class. She's a wonderful teacher and a wonderful writer, obviously. But I asked if I could read her script, just because I liked her as a human being, and I wanted to read her script. And I read it, and I went, that's my role. And, and so I am just thrilled to be involved with it. But yes, that was my version of
Nice, nice, nice. I'm going to go down to them for questions, but while I'm going down there, was the Barbara role, that character, was that in the original stage play? Were all of those characters all just to be adapted to the screen?
Not all of the no. The original stage play had the 5 main characters that you see, which is the 2 of them, Barbara, the best friend, the ex-husband, and Philip, the other professor. The one who was brought to the screen was the girl who has a crush. And I wanted to bring that aspect into it. And then the chair of the department was new. So yes, those were new characters, but all the others have been in the play.
The guy who played the chair was originally Philip.
Yes.
Oh, really?
The guy who played the chair of the department, who says this should be good, he was the original Philip in the play, and because Philip needs to be a certain age, and Joel was now older than that, I just asked him, would you please come and play this smaller role? And he did, and of course he was great.
And how difficult was it for you to transfer this from a stage play to a film script? You as the writer, how challenging was that for you?
It's challenging. But you may know this, Patrick, but every one of the short films that I've brought here started as plays. So I've gotten pretty used to doing that. The reason that works so well, I mean, that's how I got brought in. I never thought I was going to get into film, but I had directors of some of my plays going, can you adapt? And suddenly I was adapting short plays into short films, and then I was directing, and da-da-da-da. But it is quite the process, because how do you turn it into not talking heads on a stage, but yes, we have a lot of dialogue, but that's okay as long as you also make it filmic. And how do you make it filmic? What are the visual things that you need to do that? What are the edits you need to make? There's just so many alterations you make while keeping the heart of the story and much of the same dialogue, just it was edited down a lot. There was a lot more philosophy in the play. And the play was, you have literary license to do that in a play. So there was a lot more lectures, there was a lot more of his discussion groups. They always reflected what was going on in their lives.
Yeah, Elizabeth would speak from the podium, and then I would go in the audience and teach and talk to people, and theater voice, it's okay.
Yeah, you have.
But then I would be amongst the crowd talking, and so we had our distinct styles that were in the play as well, which we got to then bring into the film.
And it's also a challenge on how we had opened this up, and we're working to make the timeline of the unraveling happen in cinematic ways, which is challenging. But one of the reasons that I was so happy to be part of this is that it is Dale's first feature-length film. And it's very ambitious to do it in the time frame that we had. And it takes a lot of trust that we all had in each other. We had DPs that we understood needed to be precise and elegant and delicate with the intimacy, and know how to work with a young crew, a very young crew. Everything we shot was most of the film was shot in her hometown of Santa Barbara. So it's not necessarily a film town, but as you could see, it's a beautiful place. And a reason that I felt worthy of supporting, that I felt it was worthy of supporting, was a lesson that I had taken with me, or a mission, I should say, from my time with an organization called Women in Film, which has been around for 50 years, and it's a networking and support and advocacy group for women in the industry. And what it taught me was to say yes to women as they're starting something in any stage of the process. And that yes has always felt satisfying and gratifying. And that was one of the reasons that I think we all wanted to rally around what Dale was doing, is because it's a challenging thing that she's done. And a first feature film is, that means a lot. So congratulations.
Before we get into the Q&A, I just want to add fawningly my adoration of Sharon. Since NYPD Blue, and so when I heard that she was my... anyway, it was just delicious. So thank you.
Yeah, so question, did you film the classroom scenes in some particular college in Santa Barbara?
Yes. So we would have liked to have filmed at UC Santa Barbara, but could not because they do not allow commercial filming. So we had another choice, which was Santa Barbara City College, which is where we did, in fact, film the classroom scenes and the lecture hall scenes and some of the exterior buildings. But what we discovered, what my husband actually mentioned, is that this beautiful place called Riviera Park in Santa Barbara had once been a college campus, had been the original campus for UC Santa Barbara, and I walked the grounds, and that's where you see that fountain and, you know, and just the beautiful stones and all of that, and the, you know, the columns, all of that is at this place called Riviera Park. And this was an ultra-low budget film, so we did shoot very quickly, but we also got amazing community support in that. Riviera Park was practically a donation, and the house where Elizabeth lives was an out-and-out donation of a friend of ours. The restaurant, the Black Sheep Restaurant, he donated the restaurant. So these were ways that we could, you know, the budget that we had is seen on the screen. And that's what you want, is you want those production values. We were very blessed in those ways.
Mm-hmm. People like James Morrison, who played my husband, who you all might recognize from 24. He came on, you know, as a favor, really, and lifted the material so much.
Oh,
He's just
beautiful.
so gifted.
I just am so, this cast was my dream cast. I mean, it just was. So, but there was an original question in there, and I've gone.
No answer.
I did. Okay, good.
Where are you from?
Then I rambled.
Can you tell us how you got David Arkenstone to do the music, and did he donate his services to the film?
No, he did not donate his services. However, what it was is that, yes, anyone who knows David's work, he's a new age artist who's been around for a very long time and has, I don't know, 70 albums out there. He's been Grammy nominated 5 times. So I had originally hired a young composer out of USC, very gifted, but everything he was giving me wasn't right. And I knew that I was going to have to sadly fire someone. I've never fired someone. It was kind of awkward and difficult, but he was actually very sweet about it. But my editor had worked a few times on projects with David Arkenstone, and he said, you know, we should ask David. I said, no way, we're not going to be able to afford him. He's not going to meet our fee, you know. And he said, it's worth asking him. We'll give him the script. And he's done all these albums. He's done World of Warcraft, however many games that he's done the music for, but he hasn't done features. So he might want an opportunity to score a feature. So indeed, he was interested, and when we told him the budget, he came in at my budget, which was extraordinary. We had so many people being so generous with us in so many ways, these talented people. And again, everything elevated the film. So, yes.
Also, Dale, I want to shout out Creative Visions,
Oh, yeah.
the grant. You want
Yeah,
to speak about that?
Yeah, this is actually not a grant. What it is it's a fiscal sponsor. So when we were raising money, I had years ago written a book about Renaissance women, modern Renaissance women. And one of the women I had featured was this amazing woman who runs this Creative Visions organization, which supports creative activism. And they can serve as a fiscal sponsor, which means that anyone who donates to the film will get a tax deduction. So we raised all of our donations through them. They took the film on because it had these social aspects to it, which fit their mission. And so that was also just such an incredible gift that they accepted us.
And going back to the gift of David Arkenstone, we were this close. He was going to come tonight and perform one song from the film. And he was going to do it on his own dime, gratis, because the last 3 Decembers, he's done a benefit show for the Sedona Film Festival on this stage. And he's coming back next December. And he said, I really want to do this for you, and I want to do it for Dale. And then he was booked. He's doing a gig tonight.
Yeah,
but he
he's
said
touring. Yeah.
to send you all his very best because he loved being part of your project.
We should make a video for him. We should make a video for David. If I had my phone, we'd all say hello, but I don't
Well,
have it with me.
my husband's videoing all this, so. Oh, great. Oh, good. Yes, say, hi, David. Hi, David. We love you.
Hello, David. We miss you.
Yes.
I'm absolutely fascinated by the juxtaposition of the personal choices and the philosophy aspects. Took me back 65 years to college. Now, the question is, both of you were so fascinating in the sense that you could really believe that you were real philosophers and aware of everything that was going on. Now, they mentioned the fact that you had attended Stanford and background in Ulysses. That's true, and could you expand on that a little bit? Any backgrounds that you personally had in philosophy, or did this just come out?
Well, you remind me because, as I said, I graduated in '98, so this wasn't that long after, right? And so I felt like I was brought back to those freshman classes. We called it Great Works at Stanford, where we would study all the philosophers from the very beginning all the way till, the modernist, and after that, and then I, of course, then get steeped in Joyce and was brought there by Oscar Wilde, and then just my interest kept going. I spent some time at Oxford, and so that, philosophy was something that was on the outskirts of things. I was so steeped in literature, but of course, literature is always asking all these philosophical questions too. So when this came around, I did feel very self-conscious of like, oh man, I remember learning a lot of this, but I gotta bone up, I really gotta. But it felt good to learn again. I felt transported again, and to think like that, and to have those kind of conversations. When was the last time, right? College.
And my degree's in journalism from UNC Chapel Hill. And I had, thank you, Tar Heel. There you go.
So it was really easy for her.
Right.
Because journalism
But I had also spent a lot of time studying and performing the Greeks at our major theater there, the Playmakers Repertory Theater, with extraordinary artistic directors who had studied under, not just at Yale, but under Nikos Sakaropoulos, at Williamstown Theater Festival, and all that intellectual rigor and examination of the material that we did was what I was dazzled by as a young woman. And then I got cast, and happily so, in a lot of Broadway musicals, where I use my body a lot, but not my brain as much. And then with NYPD Blue, it was wonderful to be in the midst of that very literary television series and the mind of David Milch, who is this Rubik's Cube of literary knowledge. But again, you know, we're talking dialogue. Maybe a big speech might be 6 sentences on television. That's just the structure. That's the truth about the form. So this was like, you know, a 7-course meal
was
that was
luxurious.
cooked by a great chef with a fantastic dinner partner.
Thank you. This was really kind of thought-provoking, considering my years at college. I saw some very immoral things that almost played out here on the film. So my question is, were there moral risk when writing and adapting that you thought of that you chose not to take the risk? Were there some things that you thought might be too risky within this film?
That's an interesting question. When I first wrote the play, of course, the Me Too movement hadn't even come along. I just knew that usually it was frowned upon, and it could, you know, mess with your career, or at least with that particular position that you held. When, of course, we started to come into the era that we now live in, this is why I thought when I started adapting my longer plays to screenplays, I thought about this one, because we are looking at a fraught time, if you will. And I talked to a lot of university professors and administrators who would use the terms walking on eggs. Not eggs, on eggshells, because, you know, because you would, you know, smash those eggs, wouldn't you? Yeah. At any rate, and the moral issues for me, what I really wanted to, there were no risks that I decided not to take. This was very much what I wanted to portray, which was that there are gray zones in all of this. I wanted to show that there are different ways to look at it, which is why each character brings their different perspective. She's a very strictly viewing things as clear-cut, and I wanted to show, no, life is not quite as clear-cut as we would like it to be, and nor is morality quite as clear-cut as we would like it to be. In fact, almost everything I write looks at those sort of gray areas, because that's where the interesting stuff happens. Now, I will admit that I've been worried as to whether I would get pushback from maybe students who've gone through lawsuits, or oddly enough, so far I haven't. And she does pay a price at the end, which I did very purposefully. Again, talking to administrators and understanding what the atmosphere is like right now, she was risking her career, and she was doing something wrong. But sometimes the heart takes over, and that was ultimately what my message was.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank you for a very powerful movie that really liked, even though part of me hates to see some guy with a forceful personality like that succeed, just because his personality was so different from mine. But it made me think a lot. And also just wanted to mention that in 2002, Michelle and I were at a Glaza dinner with Sharon and her husband.
Oh, at what
that
dinner?
I still remember.
Which?
Glaza, the Greater Los Angeles Zoo Association.
Oh, I remember that night. Betty White was there, if I'm not mistaken, my dear friend.
He has a picture taken with you. He'll
Oh,
probably
love
show
it.
you on the red carpet.
Small world.
Yeah. And someone else had their hand up, and I can't remember where they were now. Can you, while I'm trying to figure that out, can you talk to us especially about, Sharon, you were on a very groundbreaking TV show you've mentioned, obviously, NYPD Blue. I think they were one of the very originals to kind of show nudity on network TV. And this, you obviously had some very intimate scenes in. And you talk about your friendship with Nicholas off screen and that kind of thing. And take us to that. They always say the intimacy, the sex scenes are actually not fun to shoot. There's nothing intimate about them. How does that work when you are friends? And what is that atmosphere that Dale has to create to make what we've seen? Because
Who said it wasn't fun?
oh, okay, all right. Good, you're going to shift that on its head. Way to go, Nicholas.
Clinical, very
Yeah,
clinical.
yeah.
Because we had done the play, which was not as cinematic, right? Not as, but it was. See, it was intimate, and because we had done that, we trusted each other, and I think that's the key to the freedom that we needed in those scenes. That we also had an intimacy coordinator, which is something that's very common on sets now. I respect the decision that Dale had to invest in that. I think she realized, the intimacy coordinator realized we didn't really need a whole lot.
We didn't need our intimacy
No, we
coordinator.
didn't. But it's because we already knew each other. In another circumstance, I think it's very valuable. But I also was really pleased that we had a director of photography, a woman, that I specifically requested, because this should be a graceful version of lovemaking. And we did need to be able to do that well. And I was appreciative that she understood, and her aesthetics, and Dale's kind and considered time that they took to get that right. Let us just feel free. And anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I joke around, but I also know that when you're with someone, we're both so professional that we both want it to look the best it can be the most truthful it can be, try to be the least, cover of a romance novel, and try to be like, what is this like? What is it like when someone gets carried away? What is it when they start to see each other and make a decision, and a very mature relationship? So we were both so dead set on making that representation so real that I knew, we're both going towards the same thing. And so trust, yes, for sure, but also trusting that, we both don't want the other to look bad or to,
Right.
and bad meaning untruthful, really,
Right, right. It was
from
a
our
closed
perspective.
set. Do you all want to explain what that is?
Yeah, a closed set means that you only have the most essential people that you need. You need lighting, obviously. You need the DP.
You don't
need
have like the
me.
best boy and everyone else there, like.
Yeah, you don't
hammer.
have all the crew members going, "Ooh, this is fun to watch."
No, it's good.
No, you keep it very, very tight as far as who has to be there. And having the intimacy coordinator was in the room. And it is true that our DP, Arlene Mueller, I think just that she was able to give her own visual directions that were great. I wasn't the one doing that. She was the one doing it, and they were great. She would say, I would like you to put your head here. I mean, it sounds mechanical, but it created these gorgeous images.
And she was in the room. She was behind the lens. She was the camera operator as well as the DP.
Yeah.
So it felt like a three-way.
I wouldn't know, Sharon. What is it you?
The whole thing felt intimate, in other words. Yeah. But I will also say that.
Or a game of Twister, just depending on how you look at it.
I will also say that, I basically said to them, you're going to work out what you decide to do with the intimacy coordinator. What I want it to be is luxurious. I want it to be luxurious lovemaking. I don't want to see the standard scenes that you see in every movie where the clothes, trail of clothes, and we did do a little throwing of shoes, but the trail of clothes, and now the passionate and thrust, all this kind of stuff. I wanted it to. The one direction that I specifically gave was I want her to stop him early on, put her hand on his chest, because she has been fantasizing about this. She's been longing for this. Now, you women know what this feels like. You know, she's been imagining this, and now it's here. So she's going to damn well enjoy it. And that's the kind of feeling that I wanted us to feel when she just puts her hand on this beautiful man's chest, and then it goes from there. So those were kind of the general directions I gave, and then you guys, of course, did what you did beautifully, and the DP gave such gorgeous direction as well.
And Nick takes great care of himself, so that's a big asset.
So it makes it easier.
Nick and Nick's wife take good care of Nick.
Yes, and his two little children. We tease you.
I love that we've touched upon the moral and the philosophical and the content and now the intimacy. I have a question about the practical, but first I just want to thank you all for such a beautiful film, beautifully shot, beautifully written, beautifully acted. I just had a wonderful time tonight. On the practical, you've all mentioned several times you're on a very tight schedule, and also on the practical, taking scenes from stage, which, as you said, talking heads. I love the camera movement, and the way you, in some of those talk scenes, the camera was moving and flowing. And I was wondering, as you were doing that, was that a shot-by-shot thing, or was it flowing throughout the takes as you did that? And then also, what kind of time frame you shot this entire project in?
Well, the time frame you will not believe. In fact, most people totally think we're making this up. We shot this film in 13 days. Now, there were the breaks, the SAG-regulated breaks, so it was really more like 16 days. But of actual shooting, it was 13 days. And the reason it worked was, one, we had an exceptional AD. He was very, very young, just out of college, but I mean, he'd done some work. But he was very good. He really kept everything tight. I was going to do 15 days, and he said, "No, Dale, I think I can do it." Okay. And so the rest, I tend to be an actor's director. That's why I work with exceptional DPs, because I trust their instincts. I tell them the feeling I want. They go over the shot list with me, but I give them freedom in how they're going to express that shot list. And so we did have Arlene, and we ended up with a second DP only because Arlene actually had to, she got a job offer she couldn't refuse. I mean, when you have a low-budget film and then you get, So, of course, I understood, and I adored working with her, but luckily our gaffer was, our gaffer was also a DP, very accomplished, and he continued her style. So it's seamless. So yes, I guess that's the answer to your question, that basically I allow the DP to choose that style, the style that they most want to express. But it was very important that we not have anything feel static, feel stuck in space, because that's when a dialogue-heavy film like this gets stuck. So we had a lot of flow and movement for that reason.
Beautiful. We've got time for one more question down here, and they'll be out on the red carpet if you want to chat with them a little bit when they leave. You got the last one, Patrice.
Thank you. I am a screener of narrative features on Patrick's team. I loved this film from the first time I saw it. To see it on this big screen has been such a treat. The chemistry between you two is undeniable. You are so charismatic. It comes through. Everything is so believable. I also loved the character who played your ex-husband, and the fact that so much exposition was coming about you through him so that we could understand you a lot better. It was just a wonderful device. It was a wonderful film, and it's a treat that you're here.
Thank you. That was a great way to end.
Thank you.
Thank you. What a nice compliment. Give it up. Thank you so much for all of you being here. Karen, thank you for joining us so much. We appreciate it. Nicholas, thank you. Sharon, Lawrence, thank you very much. Dale, don't forget to vote. Don't forget to vote. We're so happy. And they're here for another couple more days, so you'll see them around the festival as well. Thank you all for coming.